All right. Hey, Brianna, we're doing our second negative constructive, and I just wanted to ask you a few questions. Firstly, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the F1 visas. I know you elaborated on how in the visas, like document signing and in the documentation of the that is given to the applicants and that they're aware that it is just for the study period. So how does that work? Can you give me a little more detail about those visas?
Yeah, sure. I don't have exactly like quoting for this. This is just kind of what I read and based off of my memory and knowledge. But I read that they have to go through a system where they sign all this paperwork and have to kind of go through a thing and read it all, if that makes sense. So they get basically a packet and it will give you all the rules, what you can and can't do on this visa, vice versa. And not vice versa, but like etc. And it does state in that like contract, if you would say, that this is not an immigrant visa, this is a studying like visa. So if anything were to happen where you can't go to school in person, like you do risk the chance of going like being kicked out, I guess, in a sense, which sounds awful, but it is stated in there that this is not an immigrant visa. And it sounds like from a lot of articles I've read that a lot of students treat it as an immigrant visa, stating that they should be able to stay in the United States, but it's not an immigrant visa. It's just for them to study here and that's it.
Absolutely. And my second question for you is knowing that a lot of students do come in from out of country, and prior to COVID, it would have made sense for them to be there for in-person learning. Do you think it can be assumed that this law was written and these visas were formed prior to COVID and should excuse for essentially students that still are enrolled in courses in our country, but simply have to take online courses and stay, within an apartment or within dorm housing where they're not actually attending in-person classes?
Yeah. I think due to COVID, that is a special circumstances because we've never had that happen before. So I do think that that should be looked at and they should get some type of compensation since they can't be in person. But I do believe that since things are opening up right now, it should go back to the normal F1 visa standards for in person stuff like that. But due to COVID, since again, that is a global thing that has never happened before in our history, they should have kind of overlooked that and maybe let the students just do online or maybe just Zoom. Maybe they can't do online, they have to do the Zoom classes
Mhm.
because that would count as in person. But
They
since
are
everything's
essentially.
opening back up, it should resume back to normal.
Totally. Awesome. And I think that's our time for today. So I'm going to end the broadcast.